Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage SWE's FY18 President, Jana Gherkin.
Good morning, WE17. Good morning. On behalf of the Society of Women Engineers Board of Directors, I welcome you all to Austin, Texas, the world's largest conference for women in engineering and technology, which we all know as WE17. I'm glad you could all join us this morning. And hello to everyone watching via our live stream event. Thank you all for being here, and welcome to our opening keynote breakfast. Our keynote, Lorraine Bolsinger, will join us in a few moments, but before she does, we would like to recognize all the people who helped make this morning possible. First, I would like to acknowledge the dedication and the very hard work of SWE's volunteer leaders, beginning with our board of directors. Would SWE's board of directors please stand and be recognized? Second, SWE's Conference Advisory Board has the task of defining the objectives for SWE's conference, selecting the keynote speakers, and ensuring each event is properly supports the Society's mission and values. Thank you for your thoughtful and dedicated efforts that have led to this wonderful conference. Would all the Conference Advisory Board members please stand and be recognized? WE17 kicked off last night with a fun night of music and dessert with our ice cream social and dueling pianos. The Austin Host Committee welcomed us to the live music capital of the world, and a lucky few of you did go on the live music crawl last night. A large number of volunteers from the Austin area and throughout SWE have and will continue during the conference to make WE17 an incredible event. I would ask all the members of the Austin Host Committee and all of this week's volunteers to please stand and let us offer our thanks for your hard work and commitment. I think they're all hard at work and not all here. Finally, this morning we are enjoying a lovely continental breakfast, and we're about to hear our keynote address, all made possible by our generous sponsors, 3M, Dell, Genentech, and Intel Corporation. The support of these world-renowned organizations underscores the value they place on promoting diversity and inclusion in the workforce, and their desire to reach a talented pool of candidates while supporting current employees as they develop in their careers. Each sponsor will have a moment to address the group and talk a little bit about why they are here with us this week. First, please welcome Deborah Franzak, Vice President from GM, to the stage.
Thank you, Jana. So, 3M as a company, many of us think of Post-it notes. That's one of the most visible products that 3M sells. But 3M is so much more than Post-it notes. We are a company with 90,000 employees, a history of 115 years, a Fortune 500 company that also has more than 200 plants and distribution centers around the world, making 55,000 products. 55,000 products spread across businesses like consumer, where we sell Post-it notes, electronics, products that go into your cell phones and your computers, safety and graphics, industrial, and healthcare. So a very diverse company. And you can see behind me, hold on, nope, back, on the side, our vision. Our vision is 3M technology advancing every company, products enhancing every home, and innovation improving every life. And we wrap that into a statement around 3M science applied to life. So as I look at a number of the students who are here looking for positions with all the companies that are hiring both interns, experienced hires, and full-time hires, I think back to why I picked 3M. I picked 3M because I wanted a company where I could make a difference. I wanted to work for a company that was changing the world, and I wanted to work for a company that had a philosophy around inclusion and diversity, where they cared about diversity as a competitive advantage, and where they also cared about sustainability in terms of the materials that we buy, in terms of the products and the solutions we give to our customers, and about the environment. But I also wanted to highlight not just why I picked 3M, but some of the things that others say about 3M. It's my second slide, if you could put that up. Thank you. So here are a number of the awards that 3M has won in the last couple of years. Awards around diversity and inclusion, innovation, the Millennials Dream Company, first choice last year, best place to work, and ethical company. So 3M stands with our years of experience and is recognized as a place to work. So I invite the students who are here today to come to our booth, booth number 1511. We are looking to hire engineers across all the disciplines, especially in WE. We have controls engineers positions open in our engineering and manufacturing organization, chemical engineering in our R&D space, and manufacturing, and then also computer science and IT. We are looking to hire interns. We are looking to hire full-time and experienced hires, and I look forward to talking to you at our booth. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah and 3M once again. Next, please welcome Jen Felch, Senior VP, IT Finance and Order Management with Dell, to say a few words.
Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome you all to our hometown. Dell loves Austin, and I hope that all of you have a wonderful time here during the next 3-5 days. And if you'd like to stay much longer, please visit our booth, because we'd love to have you on the Dell team. It's a wonderful city. Please make the most of it while you're here. A couple of things that I thought I would just mention. Dell has a real commitment to diversity. We take pride in the work environment that we create, and sometimes things that we don't talk about very publicly that I thought I would just mention here is the commitment that we have to STEM is very widespread. This year alone, we'll invest close to $14 million around the world to underserved areas specifically for STEM education, which is fabulous. That's over 70 different organizations around the world that are just investing in, building up the STEM skills that we all know and love ourselves. The other is a challenge that I'm going to ask you all to join in with us, and that is the power of one in mentoring. And what we've all been challenged with at Dell is to take the time to talk to someone, particularly, we focus on youth, about the careers that we have in STEM, what we love about our jobs, as we just heard, right? What we love about engineering, what we love about careers in math, and share that with someone so that they can have a clear mentorship, they can visualize and see how wonderful it is to be in a STEM career. If I was thinking about kind of what that meant to me, and I thought, God, I really could have used a mentor, particularly because, I ended up at MIT because someone said I couldn't get in. It wasn't Any explicit desire, to go into engineering. It was just a challenge. And then I remember telling my father that I was going to major in management. And he asked me what I thought I could manage if I didn't know how to do anything. It was a pretty good question. And I didn't want to tell him that he was right, but I then said, I had discovered ocean engineering, and really I was just thinking I could live at the beach, and that would be, if I could live at the beach and be a manager, my life would be set. So I thought ocean engineering would be the thing to do, and I apologize to anyone who's an ocean engineer in the audience, because I soon discovered that you weren't really living in the beach. You were going to be a few miles out in the ocean, probably, of where you would be living, and that wasn't what I wanted. And I fell in love with mechanical engineering and computer science. And, I think about, having someone that maybe early in my life was directing me that way. That would have been wonderful, right? Instead, I had a challenge of, you'll never get into that school. I thought about, I might have had a mentor who just didn't call it engineering, and that was my mother, who was a hairdresser. And I know we're all thinking it, but I'm telling you, the woman was reversing motors on the kitchen table to fix problems around the house. So I'm pretty sure I had an engineering influence at home. So join us all enjoying our city of Austin, and join us in the challenge of mentoring someone, whether that is youth that you encounter in your daily lives, whether it's your own child, a child of a friend, or it's someone that you see at work that might be thinking that a career in engineering or in any of the STEM fields isn't for them. Be that mentor. Be the one that encourages them and supports them so that we continue to grow and thrive with a great career that I certainly love myself, and I hope you all do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen, and to Dell for your support. Next, please welcome Jenny Montano, Senior Site Manager with Genentech, for a few remarks.
Good morning, everyone. The theme of this year's conference, Always Connecting, Always Engineer, resonates with Genentech in many ways. Besides being a proud sponsor of SWE as a corporate partnership membership council member, Genentech supports a passion for STEM through our own company programs such as Future Lab, which you'll see in this video.
My name is Stephanie Romero, and this is El Camino High School.
I'm Kelsey Woods, and I go to South San Francisco High School.
And we're going to be job shadowing at Genentech.
The campus is beautiful. I've seen it.
I know that they have a DNA-shaped road when you look at it from above.
We bring kids from South San Francisco high schools to come here to Genentech to learn about what life is like here at Genentech. So they walk in, they sign up. Of course, it wouldn't be a Genentech event without t-shirts and some swag. The primary focus of what we do here is to get these kids to participate in what we call career encounters. So we have 8 functions. The kids will actually rotate through at least 3 of them, and they get some hands-on experience of what life is like in those functions. We hope that it's a real engaging day for the students.
I was excited, but I never thought I would be this hands-on.
As you can see, I'm dressed in a lab coat, and it's really fun.
It's really eye-opening. I found out that my interest in sociology and psychology might actually really benefit me here.
When I was coming in, I really didn't know what to expect.
I don't know what I thought it was going to be like, but I'm so excited I came here.
It was a really good experience. I didn't think I'd take this much away.
Learning all the different fields that there are today.
I'm more ready to go into the job field.
The facility is amazing. The people are so giving, and it was just a great environment to be in.
So the takeaway is kind of maybe I do have a job opportunity here.
They really want to help people, and I want to be able to help people the way everyone here does.
If I could come here every day, I would.
As a company, we're so proud to be able to give back to the community and really to be able to support the schools and to support the next generation, hopefully, of scientists that will find a cure for cancer.
Great job, analytical team. Good job.
So as you can see from the video, Genentech as a company strives to create a passion for STEM, for careers in STEM. Genentech is a proud member of the Roche Group. Roche is a world leader in biologics manufacturing with more FDA-approved manufacturing capacity for the production of biotech medicines than any other company. What began with two individuals who had a vision to develop the first recombinant biotech drug 41 years ago continues today. We've been following the science, seeking solutions to unmet medical needs, and constantly innovating. To keep innovating, we need to attract the best and the brightest minds in the world. Future Lab is just one way in which Genentech starts this cultivation of talent close to home. We provide educational outreach to our local community and strive to spark passion for science, as well as give young people an idea of how biotech can use many disciplines of thought and education to create life-saving solutions for patients. For patients who have just received a disease diagnosis, treatment regimens and the uncertainty of what tomorrow brings becomes the focus of their daily lives. So the fact that our medicines can provide a source of constant hope for survival or improved quality of life makes a world of difference. As an engineer, my role supports the manufacture and distribution of development drugs to patients enrolled in clinical trials all over the world. This is the forefront of our industry, testing the effectiveness of drugs in humans today that could save lives tomorrow. Innovation in making medicines is taking risks, being optimistic, taking the chance at something big, something epic. That something takes thousands of innovative and dedicated individuals like all of you to make our medicines a reality. We are excited to see attendance surge at this conference every year, showing that passion for STEM is growing, and proud to see over 13,000 women engineers here this weekend. So as you set forth exploring the conference these next few days, remember to take the time to utilize all the opportunities WE17 provides. The informal networking, the plenaries, the sessions. In fact, join us today for our panel, Careers in Biotech, at 12:45, as we talk to representatives from Genentech, Medtronic, AmerisourceBergen, and Intarsia. Everything you experience here will help shape who you are, create new connections, and what type of engineer you will become. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny, and Genentech for your support. Next, please welcome Viktor Timchenko with Intel.
On behalf of Intel Corporation, welcome to WE17. Intel is proud to be a longtime sponsor of the Society of Women Engineers' annual conferences and also a member of the Corporate Partnership Council for the last 13 years. I am excited and humbled to have been invited to welcome you all here. Intel is forging the way in connecting people to engineering world-class solutions by bringing leading-edge microprocessors and other associated ingredients to develop solutions in artificial intelligence, 5G connectivity, autonomous driving, virtual reality, and the list goes on. These technologies are the necessary building blocks to do what we all care about, improving safety and security, improving our health, solving some of the toughest medical problems, along with increasing connectedness to our families and friends. We truly are always connecting and engineering at Intel. And if you haven't heard, we have also pulled in our goal for reaching full representation at Intel. We have pulled it in from the year 2020 to 2018, which, by the way, is next year. Now, some of you may be wondering why I'm standing up here in front of you. If you haven't noticed, I'm a white male. I lead a large engineering organization at Intel, and over the last few years, I've really grown to understand the importance of both diversity and inclusion, and the challenges we face in each of those areas. I've been listening and learning with an open mind. I have to admit, I have learned a lot. I have also encouraged others like myself to come to the table and help solve the challenges we face. Women and men together, coming up with inclusive approaches that are making real improvement and pulling us all together. I would like to encourage each of you to seek out male allies who are also strong, inclusive leaders. We want to and can help you drive change by helping to explain, by setting the example, and even holding our peers accountable. Help us see what it's like to walk in your shoes, how to be part of the movement for a more inclusive workforce where all of us are respected and valued for our differences. So, Intel is proud to be setting an example and helping to create a future where all people are valued for who we are. And we would like to get to know who you are. Please come visit us at booth 1275 to connect and engineer with us. Thank you all.
Thank you, Victor and Intel, for your continued support of SWE. And thank you once again to all of our sponsors for your involvement and support of this morning's keynote. It is now my pleasure to introduce Lorraine Bolsinger, Vice President of the Corporate Leadership Acceleration Program at General Electric, GE, I always call it that. Lorraine has been at GE for 36 years and has held many leadership positions. She was the President and CEO of Distributed Power at GE Power. She also has served as President and CEO at GE Aviation Systems. Lorraine is a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania, where she earned a bachelor's degree in biomechanical engineering. Lorraine has been on a bus tour this year, stopping at college campuses to meet young women considering careers in engineering. She has been a member of SWE since college, and now her daughter is an engineering student at Dartmouth and a SWE member as well. We are honored to have Lorraine here as our keynote speaker this morning. As a reminder, when we get to the Q&A portion, we will be taking questions via Twitter only, so anyone with a question should submit it through Twitter using the hashtag AskSWE. You should also use the keynote WE17 keynote. We usually receive a lot of questions for this breakfast, so please submit your questions early. So as we bring Lorraine up to the stage, we'll start a short video.
Molly, can you please take out the trash?
Hey, Molly?
Whoa, cool.
Ding, ding, ding.
Molly, it's time to go.
Class, let's turn to page 136, recessive trait skin generation.
How's the new movement sequence going?
Great. Let me show you.
Please do.
Yeah. I reprogrammed the robots to do the inspection. It's running much faster now. See?
That's amazing, Molly.
Thank you.
Good morning. It's so good to see all of you. I mean, it's a literal sea of brilliance and beauty, and it reminds me, I don't know how many of you have seen the movie E.T., but I hope most of you. When on Halloween, E.T. is, being kind of escorted so they can hide him, he sees R2D2. He sees a little kid dressed and he goes like this, home, home. And I have to tell you, this room feels like home. I'm really honored to be with you today. It's both exhilarating and also quite humbling to be amongst so many talented, remarkably talented women. Welcome to WE17, and thank you to Jana and the SWE leadership for allowing me to share some thoughts with you this morning, maybe some things to think about during the conference and perhaps to reflect on afterwards. So let me begin with a little bit of scratch pad math. Yeah, I know, once an engineer, always an engineer. By one estimate, about 38,000 women graduate with engineering degrees each year. That's bachelor's, master's, and PhDs. That's only 22% of the total population of engineering graduates, so no surprise there, the guys have us outnumbered. But now let's go a little deeper. That 38,000 is 1.5% of the total number of engineers in the US today. It's tough to get a reliable number on the estimate for global engineering workforce, but you get the idea. Our next graduating class of women engineers are going to be jumping into a very big pool. However, here's where it gets even more interesting, because the ratio I really want you to think about is not the comparison of female engineers to male engineers. It's not about new graduates versus those long-standing old-timers who've been around a long time. The ratio that's even more compelling, that speaks to our purpose and our potential, is the number of female engineers compared to the population of all mankind. This year's graduating class represents 0.01% of the total US population. And the world? Well, planet Earth just passed 7.5 billion in April. I know you can do this one in your heads. 38,000 divided by 7.5 billion is 0.0005% of the world. That's 5 times 10 to the negative 6. The bottom line is this: you are a unique breed. You have achieved something that so few people in the world ever could achieve. You just saw the numbers. You're especially gifted, you're specially trained, and you're ready. And you know what? The world needs you. I'm really fortunate that I get a chance to mentor many women, and I'm always surprised, and I will say very honestly, frustrated, when they express concerns about their qualifications, when they let self-doubt and second-guessing creep in. Some even describe feeling like an imposter. Well, how is that possible when they've achieved something that so few people ever could? So my question to you today is, have you thought broadly and deeply and big enough about your unique talents and how you're going to use them? This is a defining time. Some of the toughest challenges we face on this planet, like climate change, energy, infrastructure, healthcare, transportation, cyber, sustainability, they are fundamentally engineering challenges. So there's plenty of work for us to do, and we need to be all in. I've been extremely fortunate to have worked for GE for 36 plus years, and I've had at least 10 amazing career paths during that time. I've had the chance to work on things that I never could have imagined. I've built power plants and aircraft jet engines. I led our Eco-Imagination initiative. I put the first gas turbine on a fast ferry and on a cruise ship. I created the first joint venture ever with a state-owned enterprise in China for avionics. I built an electric power lab, literally from the dirt up. I developed a research satellite that we launched from the space shuttle. I've visited close to 100 countries, and I've done business with union trade workers, heads of state, ministers of energy, CEOs of airlines, and US presidents. Now, I want you to know I don't tell you any of this to boast, because I'm just a kid from New Jersey. My first yeah, thank you, all right. I'm the first generation to go to college. So I don't boast about that, but none of it would have happened, not one bit of it, if I had not been an engineer. Engineers are we're just equipped to imagine a better way and then build it. And I want you to think about that challenge. How will you build something? Not only for the world, which is important, but for yourselves, for your careers. Like me, you might work for one company for your entire career and your entire life, but perhaps you'll work for several, and maybe one or two of your own. So you might have 10 careers, but you might even have more. So let me share 3 pieces of advice. The first is, jump in. Go beyond your comfort zone and stay there. As engineers, we anchor our strength in technical know-how, but we gain confidence by taking on new challenges and new assignments, and we learn faster that way. In May of 1983, after graduating from a GE entry-level leadership program, I was asked to take on a new role in our medium steam turbine business in Lynn, Massachusetts. The title of the job was Upgrade Program Manager, so I was somebody. And its purpose was to retrofit our customers' 40-plus-year-old turbines with new technology so that they would have more efficiency and greater output. And at the same time, build a $100 million business in the General Electric company. So a real win-win for our customers and for GE. I think today we would call that a startup. So I asked, how many engineers will I have? The answer, well, none. So I said, how many dedicated salespeople will I have? Same answer, none, you're it. I said, well, how big will my operating budget be? The answer, 0. So I very carefully considered this for a nanosecond, and I firmly replied, perfect, I'll take it. And you might be asking, why in the world would you agree to that? Weren't you setting yourself up for failure? And the simple, honest answer is, I didn't know any better. And I had the hubris of a rookie. But I did know this. Because I was an engineer, I'd figure it out. First, I tapped into the brains of all the old-timer engineers to understand how they used to do these studies in the past. Now, they would take 6 months and $50,000 from our customers, which they were clearly not, that was not going to work. But what I did was I figured out how to do the work myself. I put that information into a computer program that was really for new turbines, but it was close enough. Then I took all that information, quoted the thing, gave it to our customers, and you know what? Not one bit of it was accurate. Not one bit of it. But it was roughly correct, and it got us started. And within 3 months, I had my first upgrade opportunity with a company that's no longer in business, unfortunately, but Eastman Kodak in Rochester, New York, and by the end of the year, I closed my first deal. There's New Yorkers here, too, wow. Jersey and New York. So I guess you're asking, was I naive? Could this have been an epic failure? Yes, absolutely. But it taught me very early on how resourceful and entrepreneurial we can be when we stretch ourselves. Now, there was nothing that I did that any of you couldn't or wouldn't have done, except perhaps one thing, to raise your hand. A few years later, in 1986, I was recruited to work in our aerospace business in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. It was a, Pennsylvanians, oh, what do you know? I better get every state in the union, I'm gonna have some people mad at me. Wait till I get to all countries, that'll even be better. I was recruited to work in our aerospace business, and it was a brass tacks, drive for results, get it done kind of culture. Very intense pressure with, I would say, extremely experienced leaders, and no less than NASA as our customer. So I joined as a project manager on something called UARS, the Upper Atmosphere Research Satellite. And on my first day, they handed me a book, a tome, an entire lexicon of the NASA acronyms printed on onion skin paper in 4 inches thick. I went home and cried. I thought, you know what, they're gonna find out that I know nothing about this, and then they're going to fire me, and they should. And I suppose that was my own imposter moment. But really, there was only one path forward, right? You gotta go for it. So that first night, I memorized all the terms that start with an A. The next night, I memorized all the terms that start with B. And the craziest thing happened. Very shortly, all that alphabet soup started to become context. I started throwing around those acronyms and these obscure terms with all the other people. You know, here's one, you'll like this one. EVA, extravehicular activity. That's like when the astronaut goes outside the capsule or the shuttle and works on the vehicle or walks on the moon, something like that, but it's, you know, it's cooler to say EVA. And then here's one. I have to actually read this one because I can never remember it. CLSRB. That was the Current Launch Schedule Review Board, which, by the way, is exactly what you think it is. It's the Current Launch Schedule Review Board. So, you know, why use simple English when you can use a very complicated acronym? Little did I know, though, that with every new bite of information, I was going up a learning curve like a rocket, yes, pun intended, and I was on my way. When we stretch, we learn, and we possess far more capacity than we realize. Like, don't ever second guess yourself that you can do something. You can. You've proven it. You learn the laws of thermodynamics, fast Fourier transfers, Python, MATLAB, network visualization, fluid mechanics, and a whole lot more. Those subjects are hard. Learning acronyms is not. So, why stop learning? Why stop learning now? Jump in. Raise your hand. And that brings me to this little picture. This is a GE print ad in Money magazine done in 2002. Its purpose was to demonstrate diversity amongst some of our senior leaders and good career paths in GE. And yes, that's me. Now, you gotta love the bracelet and the bangs and that tie. Oh, that tie. I was ready. Guys probably like the tie, right? But mostly I love the caption. It reads, anyone who thinks they can maintain 100,000 jet engines, raise your hand. So, of course, I wasn't doing that at the time, but that's what, that's what ad agencies do. But I want to say, if the idea of a job gives you a queasy feeling, and you're afraid, I'm not so sure I can do this, jump in, raise your hand. Now, I have to give you a fair warning, because this first piece of advice, it's a bit of a problem, because once you work on big, hairy challenges and big stretch assignments, you will never want to do routine work again. It is absolutely addictive. Now, that brings me to my second piece of advice. Recognize that everyone around you is a potential teacher, mentor, or sponsor. Always be on the lookout, because you might be surprised who's willing to help you. You have a very, very powerful network. That's the theme of this conference, and the theme of connecting, always connecting. So, for example, my first boss in that aerospace job, now, I don't know that you'd call him a steely-eyed missile man. In fact, he wasn't very imposing. In my 4-inch heels, I towered over him. He was, however, the toughest SOB you'd ever want to meet in your life. And here's the craziest thing. He was also one of the most nurturing people. He sensed how I was feeling. He made a point to always stop by my desk. And in his gruff, matter-of-fact kind of way, he told me to hang in there. He went out of his way to sponsor and coach me. He sent me to classes, and he sent me on a trip for a satellite solar sensor by myself to a place called Ithaca in Ithaca, New York. I was scared to death. I didn't know how in the world he'd let me do that. But the crazy thing is, it kind of spoke to me that he has enough confidence in you. Have some more confidence in yourself. He asked me to attend the daily stand-up meetings, and these were a huge deal because everyone there had 30 years in aerospace. They were all vice president. Of course, they were all men. I was the most junior person in the room, and I was shaking in those 4-inch heeled boots. It was an alien planet, and they spoke an alien language, yet my boss didn't give up on me. He welcomed me in. He made it all accessible and familiar and achievable, and I grew immensely as a result. In a very different way, in 2003, I was helped by a sponsor. I was then the chief marketing officer of our aviation business, fabulous job, and Jeff Immelt, our former chairman and CEO of GE, asked me to lead a new company-wide initiative called Eco-Imagination. Now, before he called me, our head of human resources for all of GE, a woman named Susan Peters, who's actually still the head of HR, called to tell me that Jeff would be calling me. She also advised me, do not take this job. I asked her why. Susan said, 1, because you are a very high-profile female in a line manager's job. 2, we don't really know what the job is. And she added, it's okay to say no. We've got your back. I said, fine, I will listen politely, and then I will definitely tell Mr. no. You know, I love my role as a CMO in aviation. It was one of the best jobs in the company. And we were launching a bunch of new products. It was really a very exciting time. So I knew it was going to be quite easy to say no to Jeff. Or so I thought. When Jeff called, I asked him, what is this job really? And he said, it's what you want to make it. Ugh, I wasn't expecting that. Then I said, well, why me? And his response was, I need 1 part engineer, 1 part marketer, 1 part salesman, and I don't have another one of those. So, just like that first job, I said, I'll take it. We made Eco-Imagination and the job that nobody thought I should take what we wanted to make it. We ran it like a business, and it changed the way we worked as a company. So after Eco, I was tapped to return to aviation, which I love, to run our newly acquired systems business. And that was basically everything but engines, so composite structures, landing gear, actuation, electric power systems, and avionics. And I remember our vice chairman had called to ask if I would be interested in doing that role. And I said, you know, I don't know, John, I almost flunked electrical engineering. And thank God I had a good lab partner, or I absolutely would have flunked. He laughed, and we were joking at the table, when something electrical breaks, I bang it, and then it starts to work again. I like mechanical things. Anyway, he laughed, and what he said to me was, I'm sure you'll figure it out. And of course I did. And you know why? Because like you, I'm an engineer. And I surrounded myself with really knowledgeable, really great engineers who were patient and taught me everything that I needed to know. Sometimes people see in you what you don't see in yourself. Sometimes you'll be tapped to do something that you just never dreamed of. But trust those teachers and mentors and sponsors. You know, draw strength from the confidence that they place in you, because they want you to succeed, and they need you to succeed. They know you can do it and do it well. The third piece of advice I'm going to offer you is think big. Set really high standards and bring your teams along with you. When I joined our distributed power business in 2013 as a CEO, I was really disappointed to learn that a competitor who we had all but abolished from the marketplace had reemerged. They were winning all across the marketplace, and I was furious because I knew we had the best technology, not them. But we had lapsed on investment, and you know, we had lost some ground, frankly. So it wasn't just a simple matter of us having to leapfrog or tweak our products a little bit, because they could do the same. So I had to make a very tough call. And it was apparent to me that we needed a very extensive and expensive product refresh. So we decided that's what we're going to do. I pulled the team together. I said, we're going to go to work. We're going to create a next generation product line, and we're going to go figure out how to fund it ourselves. That's what we did. I recruited some of the best engineers in the company, from our power business, from our global research center, and from aviation. They joined us. And it was beyond competitiveness. It wasn't just like, let's beat the other guy. It was a mission. And we truly believed that we could find a better way, and it kind of became like a movement. The solution that the team ultimately developed had better efficiency, better output, smaller footprint, faster installation time, and it was a killer product, and it still is. It's the third most profitable product in the General Electric company, and it delivers $500 million in profit every year. So that wasn't too bad, but that was because of pure will and thinking bigger. I'll share one last story with you, and it's a story that, frankly, is still being written. I've talked about the effect of raising your hand for big stretch assignments, of saying yes. I've talked about the immense value of surrounding yourself with sponsors and mentors and coaches who inspire and challenge you, the power of a really steep learning curve and continuous learning, and the vital importance of high standards. In my current role, I've actually had the opportunity to combine all of those elements into a single executive development program called XLP. XLP is the Accelerated Leadership program at GE, and it's now in its second year. And yet it's already getting a reputation for being a life-changing journey, really, in a career path. Some of our XLPs are here today. I hope you'll get to know them or listen to their panel. These graduates are going to be leaders for life. Our participants work on big stretch assignments and projects, and those are directly tied to the company's strategy. We call it the blueprint. And what has allowed us to do is to take a bright, shiny line from personal development to business outcomes to customer outcomes. In our first year, the results of the program earned over 100% return on investment. These are fabulous people. Now, you may have a program like XLP in your future, but you know what? I don't really think you have to. You can craft your own accelerator program. So let me make a simple request. Don't let anything hold you back. Always give yourself permission to jump in. Build your network, look for mentors and mentees, and remember that we draw our confidence from what we know, so never stop learning, and set the bar high, and bring your teams along with you. I'm going to ask for a very quick show of hands. How many of you bought your engineering degree on Craigslist or eBay? I didn't think so. How many of you will have a real engineering degree or already do? That's what I thought. Your training has made you ready for anything. The world needs you more than you know, and your 7.5 billion fellow humans need you. Think broadly and deeply about your talents and how to use them. Because we're engineers, we want to have it all figured out on day one and every day thereafter. And it's okay to be conservative with design specs and safety margins, but with your career, no way. In closing, I just want to share something that my daughter shared with me. I think this is so cute. She started studying engineering at Dartmouth. This is a picture of a little girl, and the caption reads, "I don't want to be a princess. I want to be a mechanical engineer." Now that's my kind of girl. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine, so much for those great words. Thanks for sharing your wisdom and insight and your experience. We're now going to do a quick Q&A, actually not very quick, we have plenty of time, but just a reminder, we're using the hashtag WE17 Keynote, not the Ask SWE one as I mentioned before, apologies for that. So make sure your questions are in. We have some prepared ahead of time to get us started, but I'm sure we won't need to use that many of them. Oh good, you found the water. Okay, so we're going to get started. Are you all set? Yep.
I am. I apologize. I've got a morning voice that is always kind of raspy and all that, so I'll have a little water.
So you did mention the bus tour in your intro. I did in your intro, and I'm sure folks want to hear a little bit more about that. So can you tell us a little bit about it and why it's important for young women to have role models, as you just mentioned?
Oh, it was so much fun. It was incredibly exhilarating. And so we did this bus tour. We went to 6 universities, and it wasn't really a recruiting tour. It was just to give information about the company. We had some career planning in this bus. It was more than just a bus. It was kind of a real, like where you get your mammograms, that kind of bus. Yeah, but we didn't give any mammograms. We didn't do that. We could have, though. We could have had GE Healthcare do it, but we didn't. That's a good thought, actually. So maybe next time. But the coolest thing was, these women were just so like sponges. They wanted to know, what is it like to work? Not even a matter of what's it like to work at GE. What is it like to work? And so yes, I was there, but frankly, I'm not the person they wanted to talk to. They wanted to talk to the young women who were just recently grads, maybe 5 years out, because they could relate to them. And I think that's really important. That yes, role models are great, but they need role models that are closer in age. And I think allowing that to happen, and in fact, causing it to happen is really important. And then to talk about engineering careers in the context of not only doing design work, but of all the things that you bring to the table, like your communication skills, your teaming skills, problem solutions. This is what women are really good at, and we don't necessarily always talk about those jobs in that way, right? We define the technical specifications of the job. I think we could be more inspiring. So that's what we did on the bus tour. It was just a heck of a lot of fun, and we kept in touch. One of our ladies is here today that was responsible for getting it all set up, and we keep in touch through social media, and it's just a really nice way to outreach.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, so speaking of role models, and we talked about your daughter being an engineer, which is excellent, and a member of SWE. How much influence do you think you had in encouraging her to pursue that STEM career?
Not at all.
No.
Right. So I can tell you, she was, actually she started off as an econ major. And I was crestfallen. I mean, I honestly said, what in the world are you going to do with that? But anyhow, my husband's an engineer, I'm an engineer, my brother's an engineer, and my father-in-law's an engineer. So my dad went to the 8th grade, so he wasn't an engineer. But I didn't know what to say. I mean, I know if you push too hard, they're just going to push back. Well, about a year into it, she says, I'm thinking I might switch to engineering. Now, you have to know, I'm on the phone, and I go like this. I'm like, yes, and I'm jumping around, and my husband's all excited. But I said, give it a try. See if you like it. See if it works out. Thank God. Thank God. She was so excited. When she came home, she made a Stirling engine. She's like, look what I did. I said, wouldn't have done that if you were an econ major, would you? So I did finally get my licks in.
No, actually, my parents still have the first thing I made in the mechanical engineering lab back in college on their bookshelf.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
I love it. My son's also an engineer at WPI, so great. Oh, Massachusetts. Yeah, all right, we got another state in.
Yep, good job.
Oh, New Hampshire, Dartmouth, okay. Getting there.
So you already brought up the topic of work-life balance on your bus tour. Not everyone has the same outlook, and you have your 2 children and your husband, who's you mentioned is also an engineer, and an executive at GE, yes, so 2 GE family. So you've kind of had to chart your own career path as a working mom, as many folks in this room have done. So can you give us some advice on how you handled that?
No, not good advice, but first of all, people often say to me, how do both of you work for GE? And I say, how do you not? Because it's easier when you understand the expectations, and I don't second guess when he's got to work late or has to travel, or vice versa. But most of my jobs had a very high degree of travel. So I traveled probably 70% of the time. So that meant I was gone a lot. I would never win Mother of the Year. Which is, sad for me, but I had to figure out how to make that work with my family. And a couple things that I did. One, I didn't keep my family at bay. I drew them in to my job. My son used to get on an airplane. He's a little older now. He's 20. He doesn't do this anymore. But he used to stick his head in the cockpit. He was a cute little 5-year-old blonde kid. And he'd say, how do you like those GE engines? and the pilot always loved, to say, I love the GE engines. And you would think that kid built those engines. He thought they were his engines. And I love that about it. So it wasn't a distance. I brought customers to my home. I entertained them in my home so my kids would know, who's Dr. Jung? Here's Dr. Jung. He's like, wow, that's a real person. We went on customer ski trips. We started bringing the kids. Then they started bringing their kids. They're still Facebook friends with all those kids from long ago. So I think sometimes we think we're protecting our children or our families from what we do. And that's a big mistake because you spend most of your time doing that. So bring them in. And then the other thing is, I have a great husband who does more than half of everything. And we have always had very candid conversations about, who's going to do what. And I think that's important to do. So pick your spouse wisely. That's a good piece of advice. I think my mom gave me that advice as well. I think that's what I would say. Oh, the other thing is I would do some pretty crazy things. When I always would get home for the weekend. I can probably count in 36 years 10 times that I didn't make it home on a weekend. and I travel 70%, so that tells you. But I would sleep on an airplane, I would do the red eyes, I would do whatever I had to do to be home, Friday night or Saturday morning.
That's great, thank you.
I wouldn't say anybody else should do that, but that's what I did.
Understood, understood. So we'll do one more of our prepared questions because I know we have plenty coming in through Twitter. Kind of switching gears a little on women who leave the engineering profession or don't go into it in the first place because of other barriers. So do you have you been learning through your bus tour or any other of your experience why that might?
No, I'll give you $1 million if you can tell me the answer to that question. It is so that's why I'm so frustrated to see that women don't do it. But I think probably a couple things. First of all, when I went on college campuses with both my kids to look at what school they'd go to, I can't believe they're still saying this baloney. They said, look to your left, look to your right, one of the two of you won't be here, right? What is the point of that? Weed them out. Why don't we weed them in, right? Like what? Because we are going to be short 2 million engineers by, I think it's 2025. What are we weeding out? We need engineers. Let's weed some of them into, right? And yeah, absolutely. And I think something else that's changing, when I first joined GE and walked in that factory in the steam turbine business, it was it was dirty, it was dark, we had those old halide lights and everything. But today there's, advanced manufacturing. It's more like sculpture, 3D printing, all that. I think it's a much cooler, more fun, more contemporary, obviously more contemporary than it was then, kind of work that you do. So I think it's more appealing to women, so I think we have to talk more about that so they know what in the world an engineer does. And I think the last thing is, well, two things. If you look around, you don't have any peers. It's lonely. That's why I say this is home, this is great, but our workplaces don't always look like this. So I think that's really important, which means we have to spend more time retaining the women we do get so that they can rise, be role models, and people see them. And then I had one other thought. Why don't they go into engineering? Oh, why don't they stay in engineering? I learned a new term from some of the women that I've spoken with, and they call it the velvet ghetto. And I said, what's that? And it's basically jobs that nobody else wants to do. It's, they're not mission critical. They're not really delivering results. So, they're not the test cell manager. You're like, somebody in a back room. And I think we shouldn't allow ourselves to be put in those. No, if you want to do that job, there's nothing wrong with it. But maybe you like that job, go do it. But velvet ghettos aren't for us. We've got to be in the mix. We have to be visible. We've got to be driving and leading. So I think that's part of it too. And we have to take that on ourselves and say, nope, that's not a job for me. I'm not doing that. That's for somebody else.
Thank you. So let me see how we're doing on some Twitter questions. I think we've got looks like a pile already.
I hope they're easy.
Oof. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oof. Well, so looks like some good ones. Yeah, some good ones. Let's see. Oh, I like this one. So we were talking about taking chances and jumping in, so there's one related to that. So have you ever jumped in and found the water too deep?
No. I have to be honest, no. But I have jumped in and made a lot of mistakes. So when I led our systems business, this was an acquisition that we made from Smith's, and they had 32 sites and 32 P&Ls. It was basically a holding company. So it wasn't integrated, and it was just, frankly, kind of a mess. And many of those sites had been acquisitions 3 and 4 times, like flipped. So that was, it used to be Goodrich, and then it used to be Lucas, and it used to be, so there really wasn't a culture per se. And I was just so cocksure and conceited that everybody wanted to join GE, and they would be absolutely thrilled. And so I tried to expunge everything that made those people who they were. And I didn't do it quite that overtly, but when I thought about it after a year and reflected, I said, I'm not honoring them for who they are. The people that wake up in the morning in Clearwater, Florida, read the Clearwater news, right? Their kids go to the Clearwater High School. They have pride in that, and I tried to expunge that. And that was a very big mistake. You have to make people feel good about what they do, and what they do matters. And I dissed both of those, frankly. And I, I'm not proud of that at all, and I learned from it that, you've got to make people feel great about what they do, then bring them in. Not start with, we're the great GE or 3M or Dell or whomever, but really kind of, win their hearts and souls.
So related to that, actually, one of the questions is, how do you stay humble, yet explain your success and that you're a force to be reckoned with?
Well, I think you have to think about, how did you get there? I mean, if it was all just your pure brain power, your charm, your charisma, then I guess you could be not humble. But I just told all you guys how much help I had, like every step of the way. People saying, go for it, right? And so I think what that means is you have an obligation to help others too, right? Then you've got to help them go for it and clear the path for them, give them stretch assignments. That's why I love the role I have now, because I have 400 babies that, are all in this program, and we're clearing the path for them, but they also have to, step up. I think, if you're so full of yourself that you can't see your flaws and that you're certainly not perfect and that you've made mistakes, it's going to be a pretty lonely life.
Thank you for sharing that. So we have two related questions. How do you weigh taking a new position with the need to move your family? And what was the toughest decision you've had to make in terms of relocation?
Yeah, so I didn't make any tough decisions. So here's a dirty secret. So my first 10 years with the company, I moved 5 or 6 times. So move. And I always said that I would move. So on our annual review, we called it EMS, it would say I would be willing to move anywhere, I think except maybe I said I wouldn't go to the Middle East, because it was about 10 years ago that I stopped, or no, about 20 years ago, that I stopped putting that on there. And I said I won't move out of Cincinnati. And I haven't for 25 years. So you might say, how in the world could you have that career and do it from Cincinnati? Well, we just made sure that the jobs could be done from there. So in aviation, it was easy because we have Evendale as our headquarters. In distributed power, we moved much of the team to Cincinnati. My technology was aeroderivative technology, so the aero engineers were there. I could have been really anywhere. So most of the jobs that I took and the ones that I said no to were ones that would have required a move. And I know that hurt my career, and I know that I made those sacrifices, but my 2 kids grew up thinking that they had a normal life, right? When their mom was anything but normal in terms of travel and all that. My in-laws moved to Cincinnati. My mom was there. So we had this like fake enclave. Hey, Ohio, that was another, forget that. So we did, we created this sort of, like a bubble for them in a sense that was totally artificial. But I think they thrived in that, and I don't regret it for a moment. I always wanted to run one of our businesses, and I was asked to do so, and I wouldn't move, so that was the end of that. I don't regret that.
Yeah. Good. No regrets. So one of the actual questions is, have you ever had multiple offers that you've had to say no to something?
No, actually. The only multiple offer I had gotten out of college, the list of job offers that you get down to 2. One was Public Service Electric and Gas of New Jersey, and the other was General Electric Company. And I was up on the 6th floor. I lived in a high-rise apartment. I was on the 6th floor, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd been studying, and I was in my pajamas, and I said, you know what? I have got to put this in the mail tonight and accept for GE, because if I don't, I will have been born, lived, worked, and died in New Jersey. And I didn't want that to happen. So I went down in my pajamas, and I put it. We had one of those, real post boxes, and I threw it in. And I'm telling you, it went out of my fingers, and I was like, "Ooh, get it back!" Right, which is a federal offense. You're not really allowed to stick your hand in there. So I was so. I said, "What in the heck did I do?" And the rest is history. Because you know what? This little girl from New Jersey has been to all those countries and I just had so many opportunities. So that was a choice and a scary one, and one that I certainly don't regret.
Great, thank you. So similar, what has been the most impactful piece of advice you've given over your career?
That I was given or that I gave?
I'm sure they'd love to hear both.
Okay. So, I don't know if this is most impactful, but I remember the first piece of advice from my first boss. He said, don't ask the question if you don't want the answer. I thought, that's pretty good, but anyways. But, but the best advice, and I give this often, and it sounds kind of a little bit trite, but I always tell people, do the best job in the job you're in. Do the best job in the job you're in. Nothing will say more about you than what you're doing right now. Rather than be, looking for the next shiny thing, always kind of running towards something else, do the best job that you're in and give it your all. Every job I ever went into kicking and screaming, and every job I came out of kicking and screaming, right? So when I was tapped for eco, I thought, okay, this is gonna be weird, and I loved that job. I didn't want to leave. And then I was, afraid in that systems business to be the head of it, almost flunking electrical engineering, and I loved it. I didn't want to leave. So, I think you just have to embrace what you do, and people will notice, because when you're at your best and you're giving your best, people will say, that person's really good. They'll tap you for something else.
You mentioned in your remarks that one moment with all the NASA acronyms where you thought you might feel like a little bit of an imposter at that point. And I'm sure many of us have felt that way at times. You explained a little bit about how you battled about it because you actually liked the job and you wanted the job. But what if maybe, do you have any advice for folks who maybe they actually don't like the job that much and are just trying to get through?
Yeah, that's a really tough one. And I'd say still the same thing. Do the best job you can in the job you're in. Hold your nose and do it. Now, I'm going to say not if it's demeaning, not if none of those, if you're harassed or anything like that, not in that case. But if you just don't really like the content of the role, I'd say hold your nose, do the best thing you can, and do the best that you can, and maybe find something that's adjacent to it that you could add on, right? Because it's usually because you're bored, right? You don't usually don't like a job because it's too hard. At least I don't think most engineers do. It's usually because it's boring or it's not using our intellect or whatever. So see if there's more you can draw to it. If after a year it's just not it and you're not happy, then I say, raise your hand and say, look, I'm gonna do this for as long as you need me to do it, but I'd really like to consider something else. And I think if you do it in that way, like, I will be here. I'm not abandoning you. I'm not walking away. I am here for as long as I'm needed, but I'd really like you to start thinking about maybe helping me out. Mm-hmm. I think you got to do that.
Right. So a lot of things you've talked about are applicable regardless of whether you're a leader or just a person on a team, their various roles. When we're talking about teams, which many of us work in on a daily basis, what are some of the key qualities that you look for in effective team members?
So this is a funny story. About 10 years ago, I was in the systems business, so 10 years ago, our HR leader came to me and said, I've got great news. You won this thing called the Diversity Magazine's Woman of the Year or something like that. I said, oh, that's wonderful. That's so humbling. That's great. And he said, yeah, you have to write an essay. I said, oh, no, take it back. No, N-O, I don't want it. I don't want to be anything of the year. I said, well, too bad, we've already accepted it, and it's an honor. It's not really for you, it's really for the women of GE. And I said, are you serious? And the worst is, it had to be about leadership. Like, who the hell can write anything new on leadership, right? And in 500 words. I was so mad. So anyway, I sat down, and I said, all right, so since I can't be more erudite than brilliant people who have written about leadership forever, I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go lowbrow. And I wrote an essay that was about who do you want on your leadership team? And I said, I want, just like I did when I played kickball on the playground, I'm going to pick it the same way. I want big, fast, smart, and fun. So starting with big, what does that mean? Big is, they're the guys that always execute, right? They can get it done. No matter what it is, doesn't matter, they're big. You know that kind of person. It's the person you tap, and you know why you know they'll get it done? Because they always do. The second is fast. You need people who like set the pace, right? Get you going, even inspire you a little bit to, get moving and understand what's around the corner. So you need fast. The third is smart. Smart is smart, right? Not only are they smart, but they make the team smarter. They teach, right? And they know the difference between a good idea and a bad idea. And so I love smart. And the last is fun. And if you have to be explained what fun is, then you're not fun. And you need some of that fun because look, we're always in tense moments, right? Like we have a lot of things on our plates. And if you're not having fun, and if your team can't have fun, it's just going to be a grind, frankly. So that's what I like: big, fast, smart, and fun.
Good advice. Thank you. So now that you're in the role you're in at GE with this leadership program, what engineering skills do you use every day?
Stress analysis. Well, all joking aside, so I was just at one of our facilities yesterday doing a business day review. We review all the talent, and they talk about their projects and things that they're working on. And it was funny because one of the teams knew they were in a little bit of trouble because they were going to be pitching about a product that I know a great deal about. And one of the guys was telling me something about it, and I said, listen, I know how that product works. I understand, dollars per kilowatt, blah, blah, blah. You got to get down that learning curve faster. You got to build scale. So knowing that, like I don't have to design anything, but understanding how it works, understanding how the markets work, having it in context is really useful. And I'm across all the businesses, so having an engineering degree at least gets you, you can ask one or two questions deep. So that's the technical piece of it. But I think what's an even more important engineering skill is the ability to communicate, the ability to work on a team, analytical skills, right? To know what needs to be done and to help, we do a lot of reviews of what these folks are working on. And you got to be able to understand if they're going down the right path or not and give them advice on how to, course correct along the way.
Good. And we have time for one last question. Did I say the good one here? Is there anything you would have done differently given the chance?
The only thing in terms of career that I kind of wish that I had done was to live abroad. And I don't regret that I didn't move my family and, take the kids someplace because I would have been traveling all the time and they would have been in a, remote country by themselves. But I do think that there's something about your learning agility and your adaptability and your resilience when you have to pick up everything and go to a foreign country. And I don't mean Mexico, right? Like that doesn't count. That's too close to home, or Canada. I mean someplace remote where you've got to figure everything out for yourself. And I think that would have matured me sooner if I had done that early in my career. But I didn't do it. So I wouldn't have wanted to miss. If you asked me, like, well, what would you not have done if you did that? I wouldn't want to trade anything that I did get to do. So that would be hard to redo.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time this morning to share.
Thank you for everything. All of thanks to you guys.
Thank you. And welcome home.
Thank you.
Welcome home. Good luck to you and to the program, and we appreciate the time you've taken. So that concludes for this morning, but make sure you're enjoying all of the wonderful sessions today. Make sure you attend the career fair, which opens today at 1 p.m. We will still have our regular reception at 6 o'clock. The exhibit halls 1 through 5 with, again, the opening reception from 6 to 8. Make sure you attend lots of great sessions. Tell us how we're doing on our social media channels. Make sure you tag WE17, and we will see you all later. Have a great day.
There was a time I used to look into my father's eyes